I was making some hexagon discs, but there's a kind of trinket I sometimes make, a spinning top, and I've got one design which I like, and I just feel like making one now, so I will drill a hole about 3.5 millimeters diameter in this 6-sided bar stock. Parting off a 3.5 millimeter disc. Face the end of a 4 millimeter brass rod, and I will now chamfer the end into a point. Chamfered point and turned the end down to 3.5 millimeters. I used a hollow live center, and I left a tiny shoulder and turned down a length of 5 millimeters to 3 millimeter diameter, and this is a little over 6 millimeters in length, 6.7 or something like that. With a scissor type knurling tool, I did a test knurl along the length of the rod, and I closed the scissor a bit more until a nice pattern turned up on the piece where it's gripping. Only that part. I will tighten it some more, and then put the knurl across the rest of the rod. I ran the tool back and forth a few times and tightened it a couple of times. And I think the knurl is okay now. Put a chamfer at the end of the knurl and reduce the stem to 2 millimeters. Parted it off. And the hole is a bit too big for the stem, so I used a tiny bit of aluminum foil or tin foil to secure it on the stem, the disc on the stem, and test the balance. If it wasn't okay, then I would have made a bit bigger and heavier disc. The center drill left a little chamfer, and I hope the shoulder I left on the stem will align the disc on it. I have this fine file with only one, it's single cutting, not double like other files. I only use it on brass. It will stay sharp longer, and if you use tools only on brass, they tend to stay sharp and work very well on brass. If you use it on steel in the meantime, it gets a bit dull, and it becomes harder to use it on brass. I made these temporary jaws, and I will deburr the parts and do some polishing. I punched in the numbers 1, 2, 3, 6, 5, 4, and then I filed all the edges because the punching deforms the brass a bit. I did some sanding with waterproof sanding paper on a surface plate, and I put a bit more chamfer on the bottom part. Then I cleaned the parts, and I will now solder it with a gas torch and zinc chloride as flux. Kind of messed it up. It's not a pretty sight, but I'm gonna let it cool and see what I can do. It looked worse than it is. I cleaned it with a glass fiber pen, a brass brush, and a bit of sanding on the on the surface plate, on the edge of the surface plate. And I scraped away some tin with an old potato knife. I never did much polishing, but recently I bought these polishing pastes. It's coarse, medium fine, and fine. And I've started polishing the top. I decided to make a little base to display the top because it's getting rather pretty. So I've got a piece of stainless steel. It's 15 millimeters, thereabouts. It was already centered when I got it from my drawer. I drilled it with a 3.2 millimeter drill, about 3 millimeters. Was centered a little deeper, the tiny part of the center. And then I drilled it 3.5, exactly 2 millimeters from the tip of the drill. So it now has a tiny fitted hole, and it stays in there, so that's good enough. Now I will chamfer the edge, maybe reduce the diameter a tiny bit, and part it off. I parted off a small piece. It's about I think 9 millimeters or something like that. I reversed it, and I'm clamping it while supporting it with 2 parallels, which I will obviously remove. But I will clean this face and turn a small hollow on the inside diameter. Got limited clearance on this tool, but it's enough to make a small rim on this disc. Back to polishing. Here is the top on its base. I really like how it turned out. Knurl is quite pretty. You can see the stem reflecting in the hexagonal disc, which has the number stamped in. So it's also a die. Even the Romans had this type of rolling dice. Here's a quick drawing. The dimensions, material is brass, which I polish. And when the spinning top slows down, it will eventually hit one of its corners on the surface, and hopefully it will flip over and end up with a number on top. But this one is quite well balanced, so it takes a while. The number is 2. my camera should autofocus, but bottom is well, there's a bit of the weld of the soldering visible. Large chamfer formed a sort of hole, which is a bit difficult to see. I think the problem with the soldering was I used 70-30 soldering wire. I haven't used that before, but maybe I didn't use enough flux, or I wiped most of it away when I tried preventing the tin from flowing everywhere. So maybe I need to try a bit different approach with this soldering wire. I just wanted to test it. I think it's just a bit nicer when it's not upright. There it is, one spinning top.